Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today we're talking about rotation. Again, I talked about this on a podcast episode with Uncommon Fossil, where we just talked about some cards rotating, nothing super serious, but today we're talking about the decks that are going to be affected by rotation and how much each deck is going to be affected by rotation. And this is actually really complicated. You can look at decks and say like, oh, they're losing these cards, and this is how much it's affected. But obviously, some decks are just entirely going away if their cards that they're built around are rotating, but some decks in certain ideas will be kept around. And like with Lost Zone is rotating, right? It is just, it's rotating. The Lost Zone cards are all rotating, but the ideas of the deck might not be rotating. And there will probably be decks in the future that are similar that might be post rotation, and also the metagame will change some as well. I don't really know how the metagame is going to change. I haven't really thought too much about rotation within metagame shifts. We'll obviously see, Lost Zone go away, and Regidrago go away, and what's another deck that's rotating? Lugia, that'll go away. So those are not going to be played anymore. But certain decks, like certain of the cards, some of the cards in Lost Zone will be going away. So I just want to take a look at some lists here, and let's go there. So first of all, Lost Zone, obviously Lost Zone itself is rotating. Rotation, if you don't know, is cards from the year, essentially cards from the year 2022 will be rotating from the format, leaving the standard format. You have a card like Ultra Ball, and Ultra Ball is not rotating despite the fact that it has, and it would be by regulation mark. So this F means it would be rotating anything with the F regulation mark. However, because Ultra Ball was reprinted in Scarlet and Violet, it will not be rotating until next year. So keep that in mind. Okay, I said next year in the not this coming rotation, but the one after that. So rotation will be happening, I believe, in March or April. I think it will depend on IRL versus online play when rotation is for however you're playing. But it is with the release of the new expansion. I don't know the name of the new expansion, but the main set of next year, the first main set, not the Prismatic Evolution set, but the main set. So anyway, keep that in mind. We do have some time, so if there's a deck you're like, oh, I really want to play that, and it's rotating, then play it now, and it'll be cool. But first of all, and I'm talking about like meta decks in this video. In the podcast episode, we talked about more casual stuff. But here, obviously, Lost Zone stuff is rotating. A lot of the yellow border stuff as well. That's how you can know. And so Comfy, Sableye, Cramorant, Closed Experiment, Mirage Gate, those are all rotating. You even see other cards. Canceling Clone, I kind of forgot that was rotating. It's a decently important card in the metagame right now. It's not like super important to every deck, and it's certainly not important in a lot of matchups, but it is a meaningful card that is rotating. That's honestly not that important for Lost Zone in the grand scheme of things. Also, Radiant Greninja, that card is obviously really good for this deck, but then you do look at it as a toolbox basic deck with Pikachu EX, and this is where things get really interesting. Iron Thorns EX as well, Iron Thorns EX, Iron Hands EX, Warring Moon EX, Terapagos EX, Blood Luna EX, and those cards will still probably be playable. I don't know. Terapagos EX is going to take a pretty major hit in terms of how you could power it up, so I don't know exactly how that'll be done, but we'll talk about that later. But Pikachu EX is, I think, the big one I want to talk about. I don't think Iron Thorns EX is losing some stuff. That's really like if it counters the meta super well, then it's going to be a good card, and if it doesn't, it's going to be bad. Yes, it'll be harder to power up with rotation, but whatever. Iron Thorns is going to be Iron Thorns, and unless we see a counter to it, it'll just be what it always has been. The Pikachu EX is a card that's really hard to power up, and the big question is how do you do that? One of the ways is Regis. That deck is like really sketchy, and I played it some. I played in the video. It worked in the video, but I felt like I got lucky, and so that's not something super reliable. And then the Miraidon, it's not really like an attacker. You could play it with Magneton to power it up if you wanted to. I don't think these lists are doing that. You theoretically could, but that's not great. You're knocking yourself out to do that. So Lost Zone's a really great way to power this up, but that's rotating. So Pikachu EX, I don't think it'll be a super viable attacker with rotation unless we do see something to power it up within the new set of whatever the one we don't know the name of yet. As far as I'm aware, I don't think we do. Also, I don't know, my voice sounds funny. Maybe it's not sounding funny, but it's a little tired right now. But We have, not too much to say about Lost. We are losing Switch Card, so if you're looking for, like, Comfy as an engine, and Colorless Experiment is like a draw supporter, are rotating as well. I mean, I said that already, but you could play Colorless Experiment in it. Not Lost Zone, I guess here you can play it in Snorlax or Control, or Stall decks. And you could play it. You can play it in different decks. I mean, previously people just played it in random decks. I want to find one that's not Controller Lost Zone. I feel like, yeah, Arceus Duraludon, I guess, isn't. I mean, that's like kind of stally, but it has been played in various different decks, and you can't use that as a draw supporter. That's like a solid one, but whatever. It's not like a super important draw supporter, and Comfy's not really being used in random stuff, especially with like Tatsugiri being this kind of like, I don't know, pivot Pokemon, or Pokemon that you can send into the active, use its ability to get some stuff, and then send to the bench using whatever, a switch card or whatever. So switch card, such as switch card. Nothing too meaningful. I mean, the deck is rotating. A Lost Vacuum is also rotating as a counter card. Ultimately, this basic box archetype is not really going to be something that you can really play without Lost Zone. Lost Zone's been, I think, a pretty cool deck with its time in standard, although it has been a little bit annoying as well, but definitely something that will shake things up some. If you played it, it'll matter a lot. But I think a lot of the individual attackers, like Iron Thorns EX, Trapghost EX, Blood Moon Archaludon EX, will be playable post-rotation. We'll see about Trapghost EX. I'm not sure about that one. But I think it will be. You do have Glass Trumpet, and there are some different things you could do. I mean, it's only 2 colors in a basic, so it's not that hard to power up. But I don't think Pikachu EX will be. You could play it in Miraidon, but I don't think it'll be the same Pokemon. I mean, you might not even play it in Miraidon, but I don't think it'll be the same Pokemon it is now. Then we'll talk about Ceruledge EX. Apparently, the second deck, I've talked about this before. Right? It's like, I don't, it's a solid deck, but it's not a super top deck. As losing Palkia VSTAR, I don't think that's that important. Losing Radiant Greninja is more important, though. Radiant Greninja is I mentioned it in Lost Zone, but for this deck in particular, it's a great way to consistently get energies in the discard and draw your cards every turn. Radiant Greninja is a very good card in a lot of decks and will be meaningful for some decks, specifically this one. And I don't think it's gonna kill the deck, though. You still have Squawkabilly EX as really your main draw Pokemon. You're losing Curly. Well, okay, you're losing trade, but you're not losing trade. We're getting trade back. Literally the ability to trade. Discard 1, draw 2. I believe on Ends is Zoroark EX, which I believe is in the first set. I don't remember too much about that card, but I believe it just does have Discard 1, draw 2, which is cool, I suppose. But it's not the same thing as Radiant Greninja. It's not a basic, but you're not losing too many pieces for this deck. Definitely one. I mean, it's literally a brand new deck. It's in the newest set, so it shouldn't be ideally losing too much. That'd be unfortunate. You're losing Lumineon V as well, which that's a card, another like pseudo staple type card that every deck's losing. I don't think it's that meaningful though. But it's just something to keep in mind. Not too much to say about Ceruledge EX, though. Charizard EX with Pidgeot EX. I mean, this deck plays a lot of different things. There's a Duskull that you can play, but you're losing Lumineon V, which is a bit more meaningful with this, and Rotom V. And then, of course, Arven. You're not losing Arven, but you're losing Force Seal Stone. This is pretty meaningful. I don't know how meaningful it is. I don't play a ton of Stage 2 decks, but I play them some, and Force Seal Stone is a very meaningful card within those decks, as it turns Arven from a search for 1 card supporter to search for any 2-card supporter. Essentially, it's not any cards, but Force Seal Stone's any card. And Force Seal Stone is definitely the most impactful V-Star power rotating. Yes, we are losing, I believe, Summoning Star, the one on Lugia. We're losing, obviously, all of them, but I don't think this is such a big impact. The other cards in this deck, you're losing Thornton, Lost Vacuum we talked about, and Clap Stadium. Those don't really matter. I think Charizard DX will be okay, but Arven won't necessarily be the best way to play it. Or if you are playing Arven, you want some other tool that does something meaningful. You're also losing Irida, so it's not like you're going to start playing Irida because you can't. We are losing Manaphy as well. Manaphy is rotating, which is, I guess, not great for this deck, but I mean, this list isn't playing it. But Arven is definitely something that's gonna lose value in that like turn 2 Arven, maybe turn 1 Arven. You're losing a lot of stuff there because you can't get the Rotom V early game. You can't use that Rotom V or Lumineon V or whatever to Force Seal Stone to necessarily get your Rare Candy and Charizard EX. I don't think it's going to cripple the deck by any means, and Charizard DX is just a really strong Pokemon, just objectively stats-wise. It's very, very, very powerful. Pidgeot EX is still really, really good. Then Dusknoir is a good Pokemon. I think Dusknoir might fall off, though, within a deck like this, because I don't know if it necessarily will. In some ways, it has very good synergy with TM Evolution, as the Evolution line, like all three, the basic doesn't really do anything, but the Stage 1, the Stage 2 both have value, and you get more value by evolving more, so that feels like TM Evolution would be okay within this if you are looking for a tool. But that is going second. You're losing out on certain things. But with Dusknoir, it is like another piece. Arvin allows you to set up more things and easier. And without Forest Healstone, that is a big impact. This is something that I haven't talked about too much. I've talked about rotation a little bit from time to time, especially with new cards being revealed. I'm like, oh, with the rotation, this is going to happen or whatever. But this is a big deal for a few decks for these early game consistency turns. And we'll talk about Dragapult leader. Regidrago VSTAR, of course, is rotating. It is playing the new Alone Executor EX. I've said this before. I feel like this card doesn't really have very much value within the deck unless it has no value. I played some live. I haven't been playing a ton of live recently, but I've been playing some, and I've seen Regidrago VSTAR, certainly some, and I've not been Alone Executor EX ever. I've never seen anyone attack with this. I've seen it discarded, but I haven't been attacked by it. It hasn't been like a ton of games, but certainly at least 10. And I've been attacked by Dragapult, and I've been attacked by Kyurem, and I've been attacked by Giratina V-Star, I've been attacked by Hisuian Gudra V-Star, and Norvern EX, and I think I've been Haxorus as well. So, Alone Executor is probably it's not going to see any play after Regidrago V-Star rotates. I'm assuming. I mean, it's an okay Pokemon. It might see a little bit of play. It's a weird Pokemon. It's a very weird Pokemon, but it's not going to see. These cards aren't just aren't going to see the same level of play without Regidrago V-Star. Tiamat Ogerpon will see less play without this, I guess. I mean, it's I don't know, it's kind of different. Obviously, it's played with Raging Bolt EX, but something like Kyurem might see like almost no play. I don't know. Kyurem's been seeing some play. I've seen it put into a few lists. Though only a few, right? Well, actually, no. Kyurem is going to lose a lot of value as well because it's not countering Closed Experiment. But Closed Experiment, not necessarily with Stellar Crown, but with Shrouded Fable, or no, not necessarily with Surging Sparks, but with Stellar Crown and Shrouded Fable. Kyurem has not necessarily been a super strong card to counter Closed Experiment because the Lost Zone kind of fell off some, and then it's obviously going to fall off completely with Closed Experiment. It's going to just disappear with rotation, but Colossus Tenacity might be a force within the metagame, but Colossus Tenacity also isn't searching out double turbo energy, but then we might also get other special energies in the future. I expect to see some big ones this coming year just because we haven't seen any. Really, double turbo has been like the best one for a long time, and so I expect to see some special energies unless Pokemon's kind of like turning away from them in terms of like important metagame cards or just really interesting cards in general. Right now they've been pretty boring. So we'll see what happens with these different cards. Not too much to say about them, though. Obviously this deck's just rotating. I'm looking at if there are any cards that are meaningful to mention that are rotating that aren't just Regidrago V-Star itself. Giratina V-Star, I guess. Templesino. That like doesn't really matter very much because, as I said, double turbo energy is rotating. But there's a few. There are like mist energy is Wait, is that still that's in the game, right? Yeah, that's in the game. Then we have Miraidon. Miraidon's definitely a deck that's more interesting to talk about. Miraidon EX is still a good attacker. You're losing Force Healstone, which is like good in the deck, but it's not insane. Oh, this list is playing Regieleki VMAX, so that's leaving. Raichu V's leaving, which is meaningful as a powerful one-shotting attacker, which you don't necessarily have within the deck, like really at all without Raichu V. But Raichu V is definitely not the main attacker in the deck. It's definitely one of the later attackers down the list. Raichu V, though, is, in my opinion, a pretty important attacker. There's a new type of Coco EX, which I talked about in a video talking about prismatic evolutions, which could cover some of Raichu V's downsides, but it might not as well. I'm not really sure. It's certainly no Raichu V. Raichu V is good because of Force Heal Stone, though, partially. But Raichu V is definitely a loss for this deck, a somewhat major loss. It's not like killing the deck, but you don't really get the same value out of Area Zero Underdepths either without Raichu V. I mean, this allows you to add extra damage to the stadium, so then you might not necessarily want to be playing Pikachu EX. You'll have a more limited game plan with more expensive attackers, and so Raichu V is an important card for this deck. Apparently this list plays Irida. This deck's not losing too many things. Oh, you're losing double turbo energy, which I guess is meaningful for Iron Hands EX. I kind of forget about that card a lot. That is a meaningful loss, I suppose, but it's not like it's not that big of a deal. Rhydon EX is a deck I expect to see play post rotation. It's always been a deck that I felt kind of I don't know whatever about, to be honest. I feel like it's just been an okay deck, though it did at the most recent regional tournament do like really well. With Magneton giving it some new life, and this list plays counter gain. Got Pikachu. Actually, do have a lot of things going for it, but I don't think it's the best deck in the game right now. I think it's I don't know. I don't know what the best deck in the game is right now, but it's not like the clear best deck in the game right now, certainly. I'd say like Lawson's very good. There's a bunch of decks that are quite good. But Miraidon EX is a deck that is one of those quite good decks, but it will be losing pieces with rotation, and it will definitely get worse. It's not getting that much worse, but it's getting a little bit worse, and losing pressure off of our own hands is an issue. Just losing a few things, but it's okay. I mean, I expect the deck to be pretty good post rotation. Definitely, if you're a fan of this deck, do not be worried about what's going to happen with the rotation. It should be fine. Raging Bull Ogre Pond is a pretty interesting deck here with not losing any of the Pokemon. No, you're losing Radiant Greninja. Losing Radiant Greninja, that hurts this deck with its weaker engine. Radiant Greninja is the only consistent engine Pokemon in the deck, I guess, but like TMS Ogre Pond EX, Pheasantipty EX, and Squawkabilly EX are holding down the fort pretty decently well. Then you're losing Trekking Shoes, which doesn't really matter that much. It matters some, but we'll say why it doesn't matter in a second. Though it is a nice, like, it's a little annoying to lose, but whatever. Then you're losing Switch Card. That also doesn't really matter that much. It heals, but you could just use regular Switch. And then you're losing Pokestop. Losing Pokestop is definitely a pretty big blow to this deck, in my opinion. Pokestop is another piece of the engine, and this deck is going to get worse with rotation. I think it's going to take a bit of a hit. I don't think it's going to like fall apart or anything like that. It's not losing the two main Pokemon plus the main supporter. It's not losing too much outside of Pokestop, Radiant Greninja, the basic engine pieces. Also, I accidentally moved my mic, so hopefully that's all good. I yanked it because it's a corded mic, so I yanked the headset, and I yanked the mic on the headset. But anyways, not losing too much here, but it is what it is. Again, it's kind of like in similar situation to Miraidon. Gholdengo is a deck that you sometimes plays Palkia. I feel like that's like not super useful. Energy Search Pro is like a card which is now like bumped up the deck, allowing it to just hit for massive amounts of damage off of your ace spec, but you're using Irida to get that, and then Irida's getting like all these water Pokemon, most of which aren't in the game after rotation. So the deck's gonna change. I don't think it's gonna be that big of an issue though. I think you'd play Team Evolution and then like use that somewhere. I'm not I mean, Gholdengo's been like a solid deck since it's come out, but not like super amazing. It's kind of been the poster child of the mediocre stage ones. Definitely the best of them and a solid attacker, but not amazing either. But losing, some of the pieces, this deck is going to take a bit of a hit, but I think it'll be all right. You're losing Roxanne and Pokestop and just various different cards, but whatever. It's nothing too crazy. Losing Radiant Greninja, losing some Origin Form Palkia VSTAR, Manaphy, things like that could cause issues for you, but I don't think it's going to be too bad with that. Then we have Hydreigon. I'm not super familiar with this deck. You're losing Dark Patch. Losing Dark Patch is kind of bad. I don't think it's gonna like kill the deck. I mean, you have Counter Gain and you have Neo Upper Energy and you have Crispin as well. If you wanted Crispin, I think Hydreigon EX is a very mediocre deck. It's not very good. You're losing Roseanne's backup for Neo Upper Energy. I haven't played too much of this deck or against too much of it, specifically with Roseanne's backup. I have been like seeing this deck a lot. I think I saw my opponent use Roseanne's backup, and I don't think they're really able to pull off everything they need to. Then you are losing the Rotom V and the Forest Seal Stone, which is a pretty big issue for the deck, but you could kind of just Cleffa and cover up some of that. I don't think this deck's going to just get absolutely killed with the rotation, but it's definitely taking a bigger hit than some of the ones who are just looking at. It's kind of like in a similar spot to Charizard Pidgeot with these stage 2 decks. And I'll just say Dragapult right now. Where is the Dragapult here? Because Dragapult's still a top deck. It's like 10th though when combined. So we got Dragapult. Oh, Dragapult Dusknoir. Dragapult Dusknoir, pretty much the same idea. You're losing a lot of value off of Arvo. You still want to play it for Sparkling Crystal, but you're losing value there. And you're losing Forest Steel Stone. You lose Radiant Alakazam, Rotom, the same things that are in Charizard DX and just the stage 2 decks. Then we have Gardevoir, which is the 9th most played deck here, and this is losing Kirlia. Kirlia is a really big piece of the deck, obviously. It's losing other things as well. Radiant Greninja, again, meaningful here. though not that much apparently. Spiritomb is also so bad it doesn't do anything post rotation, but whatever. So Gardevoir is losing the Curlia, and that's a big deal. I don't know exactly what the deck's gonna do, losing Curlia and Radiant Greninja, right? So you're losing the entire engine. I I don't know. I don't know what the deck's gonna do. I don't think it's just gonna disappear. But last time Gardevoir was being faced with the rotation, a lot of people thought the deck was gonna completely fall off, and it hasn't. Obviously, it's been a solid deck for a little while now, though I don't think it's as good as it was before the last rotation. But Gardevoir EX has, I mean, it's a good card. Gardevoir EX just accelerates so much energy, and I think that could be used to make this deck pretty insane, or the card like a deck based around the card really insane. Right now, people aren't really using that, getting value out of that. There's not really great ways to do so, but I imagine there'll be some cards where Gardevoir EX will be really good. Losing Curlia it's a pretty big deal, and losing Gallade as well as part of that evolution line. So no search setup stuff for that Gardevoir line, but I think it'll be kind of okay. Though it's certainly taking a bigger blow than really the stage twos or the really any of the decks that aren't just rotating. Then Archaludon EX here is I don't know, this deck's not even like played that much. It's losing Radiant Greninja is actually a pretty notable loss in my opinion for this deck as well. But whatever, it's not that important. And losing Pokestop, same thing. You're gonna struggle to discard the energies as consistently, but whatever. Use your Earthen Vessels and Ultra Balls, and you'll probably get there. Maybe bump up the energy count a little bit as well. Lugia Archeops is rotating, leaving the format, I think. Weird Deer V is also leaving the format. Most of Master Ogerpon EX you need to talk about some. It is used as a trapping Pokemon sometimes, and it can't be used as that without double turbo energy as efficiently, so that's a notable issue. You can't really get just any value out of you can't use the double turbo energy Sparkling Crystal combo, which I haven't really seen used, but you still can't use that, so that's something to keep in mind. Blood Moon Archaludon EX, we looked at a good few decks with it where they're rotating the decks, so I think this is still a very good card, but I don't know how much play I'll end up seeing post-rotation. And we are seeing Weird V lose for being lost to rotation, which I'm a little sad about with Ogerpon. What on earth? Iron Crown EX, Iron Leaves. Yeah, okay, I don't know. I just clicked on a random deck. That is not what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting to see there, but yeah. So you're losing that. You're losing or you're not losing Chinchino. I don't think Chinchino is gonna be playable at all without Lugia. They're like made for each other. I don't really know why Chinchino came out so much later. I feel like they could have been printed similarly. But whatever, Chinchino's a good card, but obviously not going to be played at all without Lugia because it relies on Archeops essentially entirely. Unless we see some other card kind of like Archeops. And then, yeah, I mean, the other cards will be all right. This is the first deck, I think, with double turbo energy, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. You're losing Capture Aroma. Yeah, that doesn't really matter for any other deck, though. But then, talk about Terapagos Dusknoir. Terapagos Dusknoir, in my opinion, is one of the best decks in the game right now. Terapagos EX is really good, and it's reliant on a number of cards, which you aren't losing most of. You're not losing Noctowl. You're not losing Fan Rotom, which is not like it's not a card that makes the deck broken, but it is a very good card. You're not losing the Pidgeot line. You're not losing the Dusknoir line. This is stage 2. It's kind of like it plays some stage 2s, and it doesn't play Force Steel Stone, so you're not losing that. I mean, you are, but whatever. You're losing Featherball. Again, whatever. I don't think that's a big loss. Just this list plays 3 Ultra Balls, just pop in a 4th one. And that's my thoughts on that. You're losing Thornton, whatever, You're losing Hisuian Heavy Ball. Hisuian Heavy Ball is a bit of an annoying loss. I guess that's probably in the loss of deck we looked at. And I think this is just annoying, but it's not going to change the metagame that much. Then we're losing double turbo energy. That's a really, really big blow for this deck, because that's the main way of you attacking. We see a jet energy, and that's it, right? So that's not getting things done. for Terapagos, you can't attack with it. You could use Counter Gain, and I think Counter Gain is actually going to be good within Terapagos EX, especially because you're not looking to put another tool on it, right? So you can Counter Gain, you can search it out super easily with Noctowl, and then you can go ahead and grab out of the deck I don't know, any energy, right? So you Counter Gain there. Or you could use Glass Trumpet as well. And I think that's how people will be playing the deck, and you can get value out of Crown Opal as well, probably. Or not, you could do some other thing as well. I think this deck is a deck that can survive rotation and be very strong on the other side of it. I don't know, though. It is losing something very important to the deck, the way you pay its attacks. But I do think it'll be pretty good post-rotation. Then we have Ancient Pox. Ancient Pox is losing... What's it losing? I don't really know. Pokestop. Yeah, I guess Pokestop is pretty meaningful. But whatever, it's fine. You'll figure something out. You're losing rating cringes. You're losing like the engine support stuff that we talked about with some of the other decks. With Pidgeot EX, you are losing. Well, let's talk about Snorlax. Snorlax is rotating. Finally, that's been so long, and it wasn't even like good. It felt like it's been in the format for like forever, I feel like. But anyway, so that's rotating, and there was nothing really like it, which is awesome. There's actually a Pokemon that's essentially the exact same, except it's a stage 2 fossil, so that's like really bad. So we're losing that. We're losing Silene, Team Yell's Cheer, which is meaningful for control decks. Within Pidgeot control, we'll take a look at some of the lists, and it's a deck that's changed a lot over time. We're losing Rotom V. That's a pretty big loss. You do have Cleffa, but that's not really going to be doing the same thing in a deck like this. We are trying to send up certain walls into the active. And in terms of the Pokemon, you're not really losing too much. You're losing Regidrago, and I'm sure there's some. I'm sure there's a good chunk of Pokemon that you're losing, but they're not super meaningful. Then you're losing Misfortune Sisters. I'm just going through the list, and nothing too crazy, except for, of course, 4 Sealstone. And you're losing Lost City, but whatever. Double Turbo Energy, and Double Turbo Energy is like important, but it's not like it completely makes the deck what it is. But then you're losing Rotom V, 4 Sealstone, losing early inconsistency, which means the deck will be, I don't know, it'll take longer to set up more often than not. So we'll see what the deck ends up doing and how it ends up adapting. I don't think it'll be bad. I mean, I don't know. It's Control, right? Control's kind of been this like nebulous box deck, and it's been like that for a while. So we'll see what happens to it, but I'm sure it'll be around post-rotation. Then we have Roaring Moon EX, and this is losing Dark Patch, which is really bad for it. And Gouging Fire EX is also, yeah, here it is, and that's losing Magma Basin. So those decks are gone. They're essentially gone. They can't really do anything unless you want to rely on Energy Switch. They can do some stuff, but they're noticeably worse. Right now, Gouging Fire EX, or no, not Gouging, Roaring Moon EX is a very good deck in the metagame, in my opinion, though it's not a great deck. It's a solid deck, like definitely top 20. Like it's a solid deck, probably top. I think it's a borderline top 10 deck. It's not amazing, but it's not like super. It's just pretty good. It's pretty good, is what I'm saying. You got a lot of things going for it, but when you're losing the turbo stuff, the tracking shoes, rating Greninja, Pokestop stuff, but whatever, that is not great for this deck. I mean, it's playing 4 tracking shoes, 4 Pokestop, and rating Greninja. That is 9 courage out of the deck, but you still have Roaring Moon EX with Professor Saw's Vitality, but you'll need to Energy Switch, and you can't Dark Patch. So that's a pretty big loss for that deck. And then we have Palkia Dusknoir. Obviously, Palkia is rotating. We talked about Dusknoir some. Oh, I guess it's the only deck that Greninja EX is really played in, but whatever. I mean, Greninja EX is fine. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to say about Greninja EX. You're losing Double Turbo Energy, but it's just it's a card. I don't know. And then you have Iron Thorns EX. I talked about Iron Thorns earlier. You're losing Double Turbo Energy, which is a notable loss, but whatever. I think the deck will be fine post-rotation if it counters the right things. And if it doesn't counter the right things, then it doesn't matter. Then you wouldn't play it even if it did have Double Turbo. Then Claf. Claf is losing Double Turbo Energy as well, and that's quite bad for it. No, I don't think Claf will be any good post-rotation unless we see some replacement. So, yeah, Claf, sorry, you had a good run. You didn't have a great run. You had an okay run. Yep. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to say about this. But Claf is gonna be a bit sad with the rotation. And you're also losing Radiant Hisuian Sneasler. Rip Radiant Hisuian Sneasler. I don't know. It's a card. Then we have Gouging Fire EX. We just have a bunch of wall decks. Like walls, not a bunch, but some wall decks. We got a bunch of different things here. Chimpak Excalibur. Chimpak Excalibur is actually taking a big loss with rotation. Oh, Bibarel. This is the first Bibarel deck. That's like a loss with, you can't do Bibarel Squova or Bibarel without Squova. I've never been a big Bibarel fan, though. I think it is what it is. You're losing a lot of Stage 1 engines, but people are just switch to Pidgeot EX. Well, you're not. You also have trade, so it's fine. You'll have trade with the new Ensor EX, so it should be all right. But losing Irida is really bad. So this deck's gonna, I think, really struggle. Arven's not really a suitable replacement for Irida because you're really relying on, obviously, the water Pokemon. So that's a pretty big deal here. It's not like it's just gonna automatically just die. I mean, you still have the Chimpak EX and the Excalibur. But you're losing Radiant Greninja as well, this is the best the most important deck with Radiant Greninja, or the deck where Radiant Greninja is really the most important attacker, I feel like. the rest of these cards seem kind of whatever, or like kind of repetitive as well. So, the metagame is going to shift up a little bit, but we'll see exactly how much it shifts up. I think it'll be some, but nothing super crazy. I mean, we're losing a few top decks. Lost Zone, Regidrago, and Lugia are all just leaving the format. And I think Lost Zone's attackers will struggle, but I don't think they'll just be unplayable either. I'm interested in seeing what happens in the future with these cards, though. But tell me what you think down below in the comments. But make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.